20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. The Nautilus was floating in the midst of a phosphorescent layer, which in the semi-darkness seemed extraordinarily bright. This effect was produced by myriads of tiny luminous animals, whose glitter increased as they touched the submarine's metal hull. I also saw flashes of light in the midst of these waters, looking like streams of melted lead in a blazing furnace, or metal brought to a red-white heat. They were such that by contrast, some of the other luminous areas were like shadows in the fiery waters, from which all shadows should have disappeared. No, this was no longer the calm gleam of normal light. It was full of an extraordinary intensity and movement. This light felt as if it were alive. Timeline by Michael Crichton. The wind whined. A few leaves blew, scraping across the floor. The air was damp and cold. They stood silently. "I wonder if he thought of us," Chris said, looking at the stone face. "I wonder if he ever missed us." "Of course he did," the professor said. "Don't you miss him?" Chris nodded. Kate sniffed and blew her nose. "I do," Johnson said. They went back outside. They walked down the hill to the car. By now the rain had entirely stopped, but the clouds had remained dark and heavy, hanging low over the distant hills. Why tragedy has haunted America's first family for 150 years. The Kennedy Curse. Edward Klein, St. Martin's Press, July 8, 2003. The marriage made front-page news everywhere, and a new Kennedy myth was born. The man who could have any woman in the world had chosen his bride, one who was not rich or famous or ennobled by family background or distinguished by any professional accomplishment. What Caroline had were certain charismatic qualities, exceptional beauty, a unique sense of style, and a shrewd, sharp heart intelligence. The media played the marriage as a Cinderella story, Easting Caroline as the commoner who had found true love with Prince Charming. But it turned out to be a doomed fairy tale, a nightmare of escalating domestic violence, sexual infidelity, and drugs, a union that seemed destined to end in one kind of disaster or another. The Last Angry Man by Gerald Green. Sam moved forward and reached for the young man's forearms. He hoped to subdue him quickly without any fighting and escort him from the playground. There was no point in provoking a riot. The tormentor, all slim muscle and grace, recoiled. Sam had barely touched him. The playground instructor saw the white arms and dirtied fists spring into position. A second later, it was as if someone had exploded an electric light bulb in his face. He was stumbling backward on his heel, feeling 1,000 needles stinging his offended chin. Numbness radiated through his teeth and cheeks, and a little bath of salty blood was forming inside his lower lip. He had not fallen, however, and as his head cleared, he saw the gatecrasher bouncing professionally, fists in the classic boxer's pose, the abysmal face aglow with hoodlum joy.